Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh my goodness. You know, John Coltrane wrote that song in 1964. 1964. And this song was written as a dedication, as a beautiful tribute to God and to the love supreme that brought his music, his talent, Mr. Coltrane's, all of his gifts, and the very instrument he plays into being. And so this was a beautiful homage to the love of God. And I remember the very first time I heard this song. It was not in 1964. However, it was when I returned to college. I was in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I was a mom that had just gone back to school. And I was taking this class called Jazz Appreciation 101. Now, the reason I was taking the class is that I loved the blues and I loved Dixieland, and I thought, I've got to know more about this. So there I was every week in this class, and it was way, way, way over my head. But to be really honest, the reason I took the class is I wanted to be cool. I wanted to know about jazz, and I wanted to be one of those, beatnik kind of people that could sit and just kind of, yeah. I mean, wouldn't that look ridiculous on me? But anyway, that's what I was going for. And I failed miserably. Jazz was way too complex, way too rich for me to understand it all with my head. So I kind of gave it up. But then I did the next best thing. I married somebody who's cool, somebody who understands jazz. Wow! God always finds a way, I'm telling you. Oh, it was so awesome. Little did I know, really, 20 years later. Dum, dum, da, dum. It was pretty awesome. Anyway, so I'm so grateful. And I am really glad Lonnie's here, because if he wasn't here, I would be telling you more stories about Lonnie. So we're going to stop with that. And I just wanted to say, Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Oh, yes, Happy Valentine's Day. Don't you feel the love in your heart? Yeah, so turn around and tell someone, Happy Valentine's Day. Come on, spread the love. Spread the love. Oh, yes, indeed. Oh, there's kissing and smooching and all kinds of carrying on here. That's what we love. Well, I wanted to tell you just a little bit about Valentine's Day, and so I wanted to tell you a myth about it. And one of the greatest myths about it is that back in the year 270, the Emperor Claudius II had decided that young Roman men should not be allowed to marry. He decided that they would make much better soldiers than husbands, which might say something more than what we know. But anyway, he didn't want them to marry. But there was a wonderful priest who was a romantic at heart. And so what he did was he defied the law that the young men couldn't marry, and he secretly married them. Well, that was a beautiful thing, but it cost him his life. When the emperor found out, he jailed him, and he eventually killed him for being such a romantic. But that is how our Valentine's Day came to be. And so we have honored the priest Valentine all this time, all these years. And in fact, even during the Middle Ages, people started sending Valentines. But it was at that time that there was the holiday that young people who wanted to get married and really didn't have someone, they were in a lottery, and they could draw their name out of a big bowl, and they would pick their future beloved. Well, they would take the name they found, and they would put it on their sleeve, which led to the phrase, wearing your heart on your sleeve. Oh, isn't that awesome? Now, I don't know if they actually married, but I do think that this was kind of the precursor to internet dating, don't you? And so I think, it may have had just as much luck. I don't really know. But I think that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And then in the Victorian times, people gave each other Valentines all the time. But it was considered bad luck if you signed your name, which I think is a little odd. Because wouldn't you want the person that you're giving a Valentine's to know it was you? I mean, I think I would. I think I would defy that law, and I don't know if I would end up in jail or not, but I would do it anyway. Because today, we send Valentines to each other. In fact, Valentine's Day, this holiday, is the second highest day of sending cards in our country. So it's a day where we don't just send internet messages, but we actually give each other Valentines. We actually extend that old-fashioned gift of love. And this morning, Debbie Overton, where's Deb? Deb gave me a Valentine. I was so pleased. It was so adorable. I know. Isn't she sweet? And there was even a piece of chocolate in it. Yeah. So thank you, Debbie. Wonderful. So this is a beautiful day to extend love to one another. Oh, and speaking of that, it just reminded me that in Finland, Valentine's Day is not the day where you celebrate your beloved, but rather it is the day where you celebrate friends, and it's called Friends Day. So imagine that. You could look around and give 100 Valentines today to all of your friends here. And what a beautiful gift of the heart that would be. So with that being said, I wanted to talk about Valentines and love in a different way. Not only in a friendship way, not only in a romantic way, but I want to start right here at home, which means to start with our own self. Think about that. Think about love, and think about loving yourself. Now, for some people, this stirs up a lot of our issues, right? Sometimes we are so eager and so willing. Sometimes we are so able to love others. But when it comes to ourselves, we hold back. We judge, we pause. We focus on all our faults and all of our shortcomings, and if we don't have enough, with ourselves, then we start paying attention to the lists that other people have about us. And we hold all of that against ourselves. And we forget that we are born of love. And so today, I really encourage us to focus on the love of self in a true and pure way. And when I think about that, I realize that when I think this way, I think, well, loving myself is such a good thing because so often it is said that we cannot really love others unless we love ourselves. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. And do you believe that? Well, you're wrong. You're wrong. So you can love others. I mean, just be direct, right? Ask Lonnie. He'll tell you. I'm very direct. But anyway, the thing about that, why I say you're wrong, is because our human self holds so much against ourselves. And when we do that, we project it out onto each other. And when we don't find ourselves lovable or worthy of love, we become afraid to receive it. We don't trust it. We don't give it. And so it is hard to love others. But even with that being the case, we must remember that within ourselves lives a divinity that is deep and all-powerful. And no matter who and what I am in my human self, the part of me that is God, that is love, can and oftentimes will find a way to love. Think about that. Think about yourself and the ways that you have been able to love others beyond what you believe to be your own capacity. Think about the ways that you have loved others that has really stretched you beyond your comfort zone, beyond your knowing. That is the living God in you, is love that calls you up. And today is a beautiful day to call forward the God within us and to turn it around and direct it at ourselves. Because this is how we truly love ourselves even more fully, even more powerfully and greatly. And becoming love and knowing that we are love opens the door wide open to the love supreme that lives in us and wants to express and have its way. I love what the Buddha tells us. The Buddha says, you yourself, as much as anyone in the universe, deserve your love and affection. You yourself, as much as anyone in the universe, deserve your love and affection. It's so beautiful to know that we are worthy of such great love. Love, indeed, is our essence. We were created out of great love. I love what the psalmist David says about this. You see, he had an inkling. He somehow knew that he was a beautiful being. He somehow knew that he was to be cherished and honored. And so he wrote this psalm, the 139th Psalm, the 14th verse, and it says this: I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully, meaning respectfully and reverently, and wonderfully made. Each and every one of us is made with reverence and respect. And each and every one of us is beautiful and rich and gifted in our own ways. And when we embrace the wisdom of knowing this, all things fall into place within our being. You see, David was not boasting. He was not being egotistical, but he got it. He got that God made him, and because God made him out of love, he was wonderfully made in every way. This is indeed the love of God, the supreme love of God. And when we think about it, we recognize that the way that we are loved in and through the very essence of God is very different than the way we sometimes love others. And it is very different than the ways we are sometimes loved. You see, God loves us in such a bountiful way. God doesn't wait until we've lost 30 pounds. God doesn't wait until we say we're sorry. God doesn't become fickle and decide, I love you, but I love you more. And I love you more, and I love you more. And then God doesn't completely forget you and then say, oh yeah, I remember you. You're just somebody that I used to love. You're just somebody that I used to know. God loves us, and God is love from the very depth and the very core of our being. And so often, we look out there for that love, and we look to this person and that person, and we try to fill up the need for love, and we obtain this thing, and we go after that thing, and we forget that the love of God that we seek lives right here inside of us. And all this that we want is really a misdirected cue to come home and love ourselves the way that God loves us. Do you see what I mean? This love is so rich and pure. And do you know that there is nothing that you could ever do or not do, now, in the past, or in the future, that can keep you from this love? There is nothing that can keep you from being the love of God. I look out here today and I see so many of us that are absolutely filled with song and love and joy. And in knowing that, know that the Spirit of God that is love in us loves us in beautiful ways. God loves us with compassion. It shows up as compassion. God's love shows up as gentleness, as wisdom, as joy and gladness. And it all begins in here. We are born from this divine love. As you look at this little baby here, we are not born of divine disappointment. We are born of love. And so I invite you to take a moment and know this truth as I share with you Eric Butterworth's words. He says, "You are the activity of God in expression, beloved with an everlasting love." You can never get away from this love of God. And so today, as we allow this to be the truth of us, as we open our hearts into love, I invite you to join me and turn within. And so take a moment to settle into your seat.